What's up everyone? Karu here from My Tennis HQ. Hope you guys are doing great. And today we have a racket comparison that I think a lot of you want to see. We got a lot of comments back on our latest video where I compared all the new VCORE lineup rackets, the 95, the 98, the 100. So if you haven't watched that, go check that out. But in the comments we saw a lot of people asking about how does the lineup, the VCORE lineup, compare to the new EZONE Tour. So in this video, I'm going to do just a comparison, not the full lineup, but the 98, VCORE 98 versus the EZONE Tour, two rackets that I've played extensively with so far. You guys know that I made the switch to the EZONE Tour not too long ago. I do have a few updates on that that I'll talk about throughout the video. I think this is a great comparison because these two rackets are probably the most popular ones on the Yonex lineup. The VCORE 98 we see a lot of people playing with. The EZONE has been really popular for a while now, and the Tour really got a lot of hype when it came out. So I think a lot of people might be up and right on the fence on which one they're gonna buy. If you're obviously looking to buy one of these rackets, I will try to guide you in the right direction. I'm also going to be working on a full review for all the VCORE, the new VCORE rackets. I'm actually playing a tournament this weekend where I'm going to use the 95 and the 98. So I'm going to be playing different matches with different rackets. That should be fun. So I really feel the racket during match play, during that situation where you can just miss all the time. You have to actually play and make balls in and deal with sort of that match pressure. So I'm excited for that this weekend. And I'll have a much better review for those two rackets once I'm able to compete with them. So make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss those. If you are looking to buy one of these rackets, as a Christmas gift for someone or for yourself, make sure you use our link below for Tennis Warehouse. We make a little bit of a commission if you use our link at no cost to you. It really helps us and we really appreciate it. Or if you're buying anything else on Tennis Warehouse, again, the link below, it really helps the channel. So appreciate that, and let's get to the comparison. Now, starting with ground strokes, both rackets already feel much different from the baseline. I think if you're looking for something more controllable, the EZONE Tour will be better for you. There is power, there's good access to power, and because of that balance that is a little more balanced towards the head, it gives you a lot of plow through the shot, and you can really pick and choose there if you want to play a little bit flatter, if you want to whip the racket around a little bit more, get some spin. But one thing I feel like with the EZONE Tour is that it is not the quickest through the air. There's a little bit of you feel the mass of the racket when you're moving it, but it's not the easiest to just fully whip it super quickly. It's because of that balance, it does feel a little bit sluggish at times. Now, if you're strong enough to maneuver it, I don't think you're going to really have a problem with that. But I think for players who aren't very strong, it might be a little tricky to maneuver the racket around because it does feel a little bit heavy just because of that balance point and everything. But if you're able to overcome that, you get a lot of control. You actually get a lot of top spin from it as well, and you just can really play your style with it. I think you can go flatter. Like I said, for me, I can go flatter on my backhand, whip the racket around, get a little more top spin on the forehand, and that's very good. But just again, be aware of that sort of sluggishness from the racket if you aren't able to handle the weight. Now, when we switch over to the VCORE 98, like I said on the previous video, it does maintain that DNA, that characteristic of the VCORE lineup that I think a lot of people always liked. Good amount of power, good amount of top spin, and comfortable on the arm. I think a lot of players switch from Babolas and from the super powerful rackets to the VCORE lineup because it kind of gave them the same amount of power and top spin without sacrificing comfort. It is a very comfortable racket, but now this updated version makes it a lot more controllable. Even though you still get all the power you need, I think the racket feels a little bit more stable through the shot. I think just in general, it pockets the ball a little bit more at contact, so you don't feel like the ball is just always getting like slingshotted out of the racket, so out of the strings. And one thing I want to talk about in this video that I haven't had the chance to do it in other videos, but I think it's important for me to tell you guys, is that the EZONE Tour is a very, very stiff racket, and it could be hard on your arm. I've been struggling playing with it. I love the way it feels. I love the way I play with it, actually. Like, I hit great with the EZONE Tour, but my arm after like a 2-hour session is really, really sore afterwards. I'm strong enough that it's not really, injuring me. I don't think it will give me tennis elbow or anything, but my forearms get really tight. Sometimes I have a little bit of wrist pain. So, be aware of that if you're buying the racket. By no means it is a bad racket. I think maybe if you string with something, other than poly, or maybe if you go for gut, it might be a little softer on the arm. But, just for the specs that I like to play with, I usually play with tight strings. It has really been tough on my arm. So that's why I'm kind of like steering away from it. I might, make a switch to, the 95, the VCORE 95, but just be aware of that if you're a buyer, because I see a lot of people asking me that. Actually, there was a lot of comments like, how does it feel in the arm? Is it giving you a tennis elbow? Because the older one gave me tennis elbow. So, just make sure you're aware of that when you're in the market for a racket, because the EZONE, again, it's for someone that can kind of handle that. And I think the VCORE 98 is a much more like arm-friendly and just player-friendly racket in general. So overall, I think these are two great rackets for ground strokes. I think the VCORE 98, it's a lot more player-friendly. It is a bit lighter, so I think a lot more players will be able to handle that weight, but it still feels very stable at contact. It doesn't feel too flimsy, and like I said, it makes it a bit more pocketable now, even though it still gives you that traditional VCORE power and topspin. So I really love this updated version of the 98, where the EZONE Tour can be a little hard to play with depending on your level, depending on your strength. If you're not someone who is able to handle heavy rackets, I think the EZONE Tour might feel a little bit sluggish. But if you are able to handle that, it's just great all around the court. It is not as powerful as the VCORE 98, but it is a lot more controllable, and you can play around with your spins. Try to hit a bit heavier, try to hit a little bit flat, use the slice. I think with a little more ease on the EZONE Tour. Is a lot more versatile than the VCORE 98. But again, be aware of that, the stiffness. I don't really talk about numbers, and a lot of people are going to be like, oh, but the stiffness is so and so in the numbers. But it's not about the numbers. It's about how it feels in my hand and on my arm when I play with it, and it can be a little tricky and can hurt a little bit the arm for players who already suffer from that. So just be aware of that. Again, it's a great racket. I really like the way I play with it, but it can be a little tough on your arm. So just be aware of that when you try them out. And if you're able to handle it, I think the EZONE Tour is a fantastic option. Both rackets just play very different. So make sure you know who you are as a player when you make the choice of which racket you're going to buy. Now, in one area both of these rackets excel is for serving. I love both of them for serving, even though they play a little bit different there. I just get a lot of pop with both rackets. I think with the EZONE Tour, again, we stay on that theme of it is a little bit harder to swing fast. It might feel a little bit sluggish for some players. It might feel a little bit slow through the air if you don't have the strength. But if you do have the strength, you can really, really crack your serves. I know when I serve with it, I probably get a few miles per hour more than when I serve with, for example, my older speed. That was one thing that kind of pushed me to switch to the EZONE that I was like, whoa, I'm getting like a lot more pop with the EZONE for serving. And not just for flat serves, but for kick serves, for everything. It really feels like it feels good when you step on the line with the EZONE Tour. But at the same time, the VCORE 98, it is awesome for serving as well. I think it's easier for players who might not have like the greatest motion yet, or are just learning how to serve. It can be a little, serving is hard just in general. So if you need something that will help you a bit more, I think the VCORE 98 is the better option. But like I said on the last video, I thought the VCORE 98 was the best racket for serving out of the new VCORE lineup, and I stick by that. I think it's a fantastic racket for serving. I get a lot. Well, the flat serves just are just massive, and kick serves also feel good. Even though sometimes, because it's a more powerful racket, I feel like I might miss a little bit long, so I need to add a little more extra top spin to my kicks, but that's just adjustment, just playing with it over and over and over. You just kind of adjust to that. So overall, I don't think you can go wrong with either one. If you're looking for a racket that's gonna give you a little bit extra power on serves, but again, with that same theme of the EZONE being a little more hard to handle in most situations, and on serve is the same thing. If you're able to handle the weight, the balance, and everything, I think it is a great option. But if you feel like you're not going to be able to handle that, or if you don't trust yourself enough to pick up a racket that heavy, I think the VCORE is probably the best option. Both great rackets for serving. Can't really go wrong with either one of them. Just make sure again, yourself as a player in this situation, so you can make the right choice for you. I know I probably like actually the VCORE 98 more than I like the EZONE for serving. It's just a bit easier. Serving was never really my favorite shot, and I think the EZONE the VCORE kind of makes it like a lot more natural for me to get power and all that. But I think the EZONE still a fantastic option. Just so can't really go wrong. Just make sure again you know what's going to be best for your game. And finally, for everything else on the core, like serving, slicing, anything that requires feel, I think both rackets are good. I prefer the EZONE Tour for volleying and slicing, anything that requires a little bit more feel, a little more touch. I think the EZONE Tour gives me a little more feedback, and I'm able to stab my volleys a little bit more. Just that extra control that the racket has gives me more confidence to go for those shots, where sometimes with the VCORE 98 I can be a little tentative into maybe stabbing a volley a bit too hard, just like thinking that it might shoot out of the racket a little bit too quickly. It's not, I like it for slicing. I don't really have any problems with the VCORE 98 for slicing, but I think the EZONE Tour does give you a little bit more feel. But when it comes to maneuverability, the VCORE 98 is much easier and much more maneuverable around the court. Like I said throughout the video, the EZONE Tour is head heavy, can feel a little bit slow through the air, and if you're not strong enough, especially in shots that like you're really on the run, having to like just you do it a lot more with your hands. I think the EZONE can be a little hard for certain players that aren't developed enough yet to handle a racket like that, where the VCORE 98 it will be much easier to actually get the racket around, get a good contact with the ball, and it is a bit more forgiving if you miss hits. So in conclusion, I'm sure by now you guys have caught up with the theme of this video, right? Where I think these are both great rackets, but they're very, very different on the way they play. And my favorite is the EZONE Tour. I think for my game is the better racket. For the style that I like to play on the court. It just suits me really well, but it is not the racket I recommend for most people. I think out of these two, more players will be better off with the VCORE 98. It's much more arm friendly, it has a bigger sweet spot, and it does give, I think, players who are just starting in tennis a little more topspin and power, to send the ball a little bit deeper. I know that's not everything on a racket. I don't think anyone should buy rackets just based on power, but just in terms of like being friendly on your arm and being easy to play with, I think easier to play with. I think the VCORE 98 is much easier. I think that the EZONE, for as an amazing racket as it is, it requires more skill to handle the racket just in general. But once you have that skill to handle it, it does reward you. So again, it really comes down to where you are on your tennis journey. If you have the skill level to handle a racket like the EZONE Tour, I think you'll be rewarded. I think you really like it. Again, be aware of the stiffness. It can be a little bit harder on your arm, so you might need to play around with the strings, string tension, all that stuff. But once you find that optimal kind of spec for the racket, I think it's a fantastic racket. So don't be shy of at least trying it and seeing it, if you have anything, if you're gonna feel your arm or not after you play with it. But just overall, a great racket. But my recommendation for most players would be the VCORE 98. I think it's just much more player friendly, much easier for a lot more players to play with. And just overall, just a great update from Yonex. I really like this update. I'm excited to play a tournament using it, even though I might have to switch mid match if I'm sending every ball out, because it's different just playing in practice and really swinging out versus playing a match, having those match nerves a little bit more. But I really want to see how the VCORE 98 performs, and I will be talking about that on upcoming videos. So make sure you subscribe to the channel, and I hope this video is helpful. I know a lot of people are going to be looking to buy either one of them, and are probably searching online like which one is best for them. If you don't have access to a demo, it might be a little bit trickier, and so maybe this will help you make a more educated decision. Let us know in the comments below if you're playing with the EZONE. Did you have the same issues that I've had with it? If you're going to switch to a different racket, are you looking to buy either one of these rackets right now? And just let us know in the comments below what do you end up doing. And if this video is helpful, obviously give it a thumbs up, because it really helps the channel. Make sure you visit mytennishq.com. We have a ton of new articles there for you guys, and I'll see you guys on the next one.